So in this program, you know that we don't shy away from conspiracy theories. In fact, we kind of like them. Like, space is fake, man. Actually, the world is it's not round, it is flat, but also it's actually a pizza. And we live in a simulation. That'll think. But as the rest of the NFL is filling out their coaching staffs, and the Vikings have openings at both offensive and defensive coordinator, the question is, why haven't the Vikings named any replacements yet? No, now, is it some massive, far-reaching conspiracy theory, or is it relatively simple? Well, let's run the gamut. Let's start off with the simple, because maybe it could be completely plausible and actually reasonable. But the reason that makes sense the most is that the Vikings are waiting on teams that are still playing, i.e. the Chiefs and the stupid Niners, right? So now assistant jobs are different than head coaching jobs in that all assistants are lumped together in one category in the eyes of the NFL. So, like, you could be offensive coordinator, assistant head coach, or you could be like special teams quality control, like basically the guy who gets sandwiches and takes dudes to the airport. Yeah, those guys are seen in the same stratum. Right, so lateral moves. The NFL doesn't like teams, doesn't like assistant coaches interviewing for lateral moves while their team is still in the playoffs. So they can't interview for coordinator jobs. Like, say a linebackers coach wants to interview for a defensive coordinator job, it's no bueno. The team has to wait, which is fine to a degree. And also, of course, there is some under the table. Hey, ring, ring. Hey, would you be interested in this job? Yes. Okay, click. Yeah, so that happens all the time, but there can't be anything formally, and also there can't be any formal announcements. Like, the league does make exceptions for head coaching jobs because that has to go quick, and as well as someone's window for landing a head coaching job, because teams want someone in place. Like, they don't want to wait until February to have a head coach in place, because that means then assistant coaches have to fall in the line. They ain't gonna do that, right? So the hiring process right now for the league, even though it's very imperfect, you can sort of understand why they do that for head coaching jobs, but they don't do that for assistants. So that's potentially why the Vikings are where they are now, because let's say the Vikings do have legitimate interest in some of the Chiefs' assistants, notably offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy or quarterback coach Mike Kafka. Now, both of them do have ties to the Vikings. Bieniemy was running backs coach for the Vikings from 2006 to 2010. He was frankly, I think he was still the only coach who actually got the best out of Adrian Peterson, made him listen, made him respect authority, but whatever. Then Bieniemy went from the Vikings to be offensive coordinator of his alma mater, University of Colorado, where he called plays, and then he joined the Chiefs staff with Andy Reid. He's been there since 2013. Last 2 years as offense coordinator, of course, not calling plays, but we've seen that Andy Reid's non-play calling offense coordinator, Doug Peterson and Matt Nagy, go on to get head coaching jobs. I think Bieniemy is going to be a head coach someday very soon in this league, and frankly, if the Vikings want to bring him on as a play caller, potentially as a replacement for Zimmer as well, I think that would make a lot of sense. Then also Kafka, who was on the Vikings in 2015, has been with the Chiefs for the past 3 years, two of them as quarterbacks coach. Eventually could be moving on to a coordinator job somewhere else. Niners side, I mean, the name that makes sense is passing game coordinator Mike LaFleur, who is the brother of the 12-year-old boy in Green Bay. That'd be a fun dynamic. But also he has extensive ties to the Shanahan offense, obviously. And of course, that has a lot of crossover and blending in with what Kubiak wants to do. And Zimmer has talked about that. The Vikings are going to have a Kubiak-esque flavor on offense, which is going to be fine. So that could be a fit there, and could be a reason why the Vikings have been slow to name a new offense coordinator, because Michael LaFleur is seen as an up-and-comer in this league, sort of in the same mold as his brother, Kevin Stefanski, Sean McVay, etc. And then also, the caveat is that assistants who are out of contract, there's a 10-day waiting period for teams were assistant coaches who, even though the contract expired, have to be tied to that team. So that's why George Edwards now, 10 days later, is starting to get you're starting to hear news that he's sniffing around potentially with the Cowboys, etc. So it could be teams that just were in the divisional round, championship game. Could be interest there as well. Or, the Vikings could have been on Jake Gruden, who ultimately went to the Jaguars. Of course, Zimmer and Gruden had some time in Cincinnati. That could be it. But here's where it gets nuts. Let's get nuts. My theory is, like, if we want to go full on conspiracy, full on just stealing of jobs and positions, they're either not going to formally name coordinators. Kubiak is going to run the offense. Zimmer is going to run the defense. Like, get rid of formalities. Get rid of all the ceremonial titles. Like, we know what's up. Old man Gary is the OC. Old man Zimmer is the DC / head coach / with the challenge flag, etc. Or the kids are in. Or it's going to be Clint Kubiak is going to be Gary's puppet on the offense, and Adam Zimmer is going to be Mike's puppet on the defense. And all this could be pop and circumstance. Be like, oh, we had an exhaustive search for new coordinators, but ultimately we could not find the right fit, so here it is. So you either have us or you got the kids. Now, nepotism is widely spread in the NFL, but if you have a spot where you have two old-time coaches, in Gary Kubiak and Mike Zimmer, and the same offseason, simultaneously, they're giving first-time coordinator jobs to their young, relatively inexperienced children. I mean, that would be a tough sell. So maybe the Vikings are stretching this thing out as like, hey, man, we asked everyone, but at the end of the day, this is what we got left. And then they turn over to the kids, or they keep the jobs themselves. So that's a conspiracy theory, that they already made their mind up. They already knew who they're going to get, but they just want that cover. They just want the optics to be right, so they can't just be like, oh, we're just giving these jobs to these inexperienced neophyte children of ours just because of their last name. Maybe not. Or it's going to be Eric Bieniemy. Bring it on. All right, your thoughts. Why haven't the Vikings named their coordinators yet? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, subscribe for daily Vikings takes. You want to support the work, pull us up in the Venmo. Plus, give us a follow on social media as well. Until next time, Skol, production value.